All right. Should we kick it off? Kaushal, is everyone on? Are we good?
I think we've got quite a few folks on. I'm sure a few more people will join some Indian stretchable time possibly. So, but I think we should start, and then people can ask questions if they have any more, if they join a little late.
Awesome. Great. Well, thanks all for joining. Welcome to, you're in the right place. This is the Paras Education Foundation webinar. The webinar talk about studying abroad, financing, getting all your education questions answered. So you're in the right place. I wanted to start off a little bit with a quote out here. If you guys can see the screen, this is what you guys are all dreaming about, right? A ship in the harbor is safe, but that's not what ships are built for. So when you guys think about going abroad, you guys are venturing out, you guys are pushing your boundaries, you guys are looking at exploring the unknown. And that's really admirable, right? And I think we're looking at helping you guys get on that journey and how we can help. So let me introduce myself. My name is Hattab Singhavi. I am based in San Francisco. That's where I am right now. I went to the Kelley School of Business in Indiana. I currently work at Amazon, was working at Apple before my current role. And I'm helping the Paras Education Foundation in talking about my journey and also helping fellow students navigate the waters to coming to the United States and many other countries globally. So that's me. And I also have my co-presenter with me, Kaushal, who's on the line as well. Kaushal, to introduce yourself real quick.
Hey guys, so I'm Kaushal. I did my undergrad from UC Berkeley, that's University of California, Berkeley, in computer science and ops research, more than 15 years ago. And I worked at Amazon for a long time, straight out of college, as a computer science engineer, and then leading teams. And then I've been running product and technology at a couple of different startups. I ran my own startup, I sold that. And then I am now running product for a early stage startup in the Valley called Airbase, but I'm based in India.
Great. Awesome. So those are our presenters for today. And before I start, really feel free to ask the questions on the chat. We do want to make this interactive. We are going to have a couple of users giving their experience and testimonial towards the end of this. But I encourage everyone to use the chat. If there are questions you need to ask, we'll try to get to as many questions as we can as we go along. If not, we will get back to you after this webinar with your responses. So with that said, let's get on with this. And for all the students and parents joining, we appreciate you taking the time to join. Hopefully, this is worth your time and we can help you further. So real quick, we're going to go through a few things today. We're going to talk about a current market overview for what students in the US looks like and the conditions. I know there's a lot of concern, there's a lot of questions, there's a lot of confusion out there. We'll try to answer the best that we can based on the knowledge and the information we have so far. And then we'll get into the discussion around the different loan types, US loans, Indian loans. We help with all those kinds of loans. So we'll talk a little bit about, at a very high level, what's the difference between those loan types and which ones could be applicable to you. We'll talk a little bit about our Paras Education loans, which is where a lot of you guys can actually get the benefit of looking and financing for your education abroad. And then lastly, we'll go into some of the user voices. So, we're lucky we've had some great users who agreed to participate on this webinar and talk about the experience using the process, going, from soup to nuts, so to speak, with the entire end-to-end process. So we'll go through that. And then we'll just outline some next steps, right, to make this really actionable for you and for you to have a point of contact with someone at the Paras Education Foundation. So with that, I'm going to go into a little bit of a history lesson. But if you think about, from the early part of the 2000s, there's been a huge increase in the number of students coming to the United States and going to many other foreign countries from India and China. India and China remain the two biggest countries sending international students abroad, and with good reason, right? We have the right profile, we have the right aptitude, we have the right will And as Indian students, we have the right determination to really make our dreams come true with a great education. And all we need is assistance to get us there, right? And how do we get there? That's how my journey started. That's how Kaushal's journey started. And, we want to talk about, yes, times are a little bit uncertain right now, lots of policy changes, lots of things in the news, but, the reality is the education and the quality of education is not going anywhere, right? Whether it's 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, a Harvard degree or a Princeton degree is still as valuable, whether you do it online or whether you do it in person, and there are ways for you guys to get there. But if you see the graph, typically, there's been an increasing number of students from India coming to the US and going to other international countries. And this trend is going to continue once, we have obviously new policies, and there's a lot of retaliation by a lot of the companies in the US and universities really wanting Indian students to come attend in the United States. So with that, I think there's a good reason why, Indian students are a prime target. I'll let Kaushal talk about why he thinks that he's actually had a good experience talking to some students in India as well.
Yes, I think, Indian students are, very well suited for studying abroad in general. More specifically, the things that the US colleges look for, there's a dearth of STEM students from the US, and that's often what, students from India are looking to go do. There's clearly the foundation that the Indian education sets you up for success, especially around STEM, but also around business and social arts. But this is something that, we've seen thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of students, excel once you get to the college of your choice. And I think for, and so that's sort of why Indian students really do really well once you go there and, especially pursue your career aspirations after you've graduated as well. The other major aspect, though, is about how you're going to finance your education. And I think we'll talk a lot more about the Paris loans specifically, but in general, Indian loans are fairly difficult, very onerous. They need very heavy collateral. They have limits on how much you can get, but, and these are both already very important factors. And then the other, critical factor as anyone's thinking about this is sort of the interest rate, right? So you put these three things together, and the way your loans get structured, if you try to work with some of the Indian institutions, is pretty difficult. It is possible, people do it, but it lands up being sort of like a jigsaw puzzle where you're trying to get different things together to make it happen. And you're just putting a lot more pressure on everyone in India. And then I think lastly, there is the nice thing is, over the last 20, 25 years now, there's been a significantly large community of Indians in the US. And that also helps you pursue your dreams as you want to go through the Paris loan process, because they actually also want to help you, see your aspirations play out, and they can help in a very easy, lightweight fashion. We'll talk more about that.
Great. So, I think we have on the call a good representation, but several of you are joining from the US. And, I want to address this head on, where there's been a lot of changes in this past week in terms of policy, what's going to happen, what happened to the students already here in the US. So if you're already here in the US, I'll say one thing, right, is just focus on your education, right? And the reason I say that is policies will change, policies will be made favorable. US universities do require international students here. That's how the endowment works. That's how the college gets its money. That's how they, international students are paying full tuition compared to the US students. So they will figure out a way to make it work. International students will be coming to the US. Now, whether it's 6 months or 12 months, that's the question that needs to be asked. And whether it's online or a hybrid model, it doesn't matter, right? So I think right now, those are all things that are not in our control. So what's in control for you as students and as parents is really focus on what kind of education you really want to go after. Figure out a way, how do we finance that education, right? And financing is important to lock very early on, because that process will take some time. And understand, that however this situation change, the finance that you are arranging and you're depending on, that is applicable for all your different modes of education. So whether you do an online only mode, most of the universities are saying, hey, if we go online for the fall semester, maybe we'll have kids come into the spring, and that's fine, right? There are some where are saying, hey, we'll do a hybrid of both in-person and online, right? Or there are some saying, hey, we'll open up and students can come here. So there are all these different models of attending and getting your education from a US university. And all of them is great, right? But the thing that's not going to change is they all will still require you to finance your education. And that's why when we talk about financing, we don't want to focus a lot more on what happens to me, what happens to my degree. It will all continue. It will go on, right? Because all of this financial assistance is sent directly to the university. It doesn't come to you as a student or to your parents. It's sent to the universities. The university determines whether you do an online model, you do a hybrid model. They'll apply the money that they get, they'll apply it towards your tuition, whichever mode you decide to do. So that's why I want to make sure that kids here in the US who are attending this webinar understand that you're not alone. There are lots of kids who are in the same boat as you, but everyone's really making sure that their education financing is taken care of because they are going to study in some form or the fashion. Again, I want to make sure that you guys understand that the chat channel is open. If you want to ask questions, definitely feel free to use the chat as well. I know we're going through some of the material pretty quickly, so feel free to ask a question in chat. So Rosh, I'll give a quick overview on the difference in the different loan types, which we can help on both the US loans as well as the Indian loans.
I'll talk about those, yes. I think Paras can help you with both. I think I want to definitely, I did talk a little bit already, and I'm going to spend a little, about a minute or so just to explain the differences between the two. So the key thing that Paras does is we work with financial institutions and NBFCs in the US to finance your education. And that comes with a few key benefits. One of the key things I already mentioned is interest rates. The interest rates are much lower. We've already seen students who are going to be studying at least abroad, whether they go or not, as Hitav said, is something to be determined, but are already definitely going to be studying. And we've sort of already seen interest rates as low as 2 and 2.5% as well. This is an annual percentage, and this is a fraction of the interest rates you'll see from any of the Indian institutions. The other key thing is that there is no collateral required. So, with Indian institutions, typically you need to put up, most often, most people have is their house as collateral. And we don't think that you should ever be putting the home that, your parents and so have built at risk. And I think that, having a loan without a collateral is just a much, much better option. You are responsible as a student, but to repay the loan, but the house should not be the collateral to make that happen. The other key aspect, as I said already, is that this is everything that comes on your I-20, which includes living expenses, tuition, of course, also your books and any other living expenses that the university deems necessary. And they're normally fairly generous on this front. They do understand the students want to also live a full life during the student life. So, their entire amount is available for you to take on as a loan. And it's completely the amount of the loans only limited by what's in your I-20 and what the university certifies. So, some students we know also get some scholarships from universities. So the university will say, hey, listen, it's a $50,000 a year, but we've given them a $10,000 scholarship. So it's only going $40,000 a year. So you'll get everything up until the amount that the university expects you to be paying for, right? And then I think another key thing, and this helped me a lot, right, is just reduce a lot of the pressure once you graduated, right? So you don't need to pay back in 3 or 4 years. You can pay back over 20 years, right? And so that really allows you to take the choices for the career that you're thinking about, right? And we've seen students take a gap year sometimes also, to do some humanitarian efforts. They then also want to go ahead and do a second master. Sometimes maybe they've done something in data science. They want to do one more in information engineering and so on. So we've seen a lot of those things. And I think these are the key aspects of it. The Indian loans, as I've said, are available, but there are limits to Indian loans. And I think, we can talk about that as well. And you can definitely get in touch with Paras to talk more about those things. But we do want to make sure that you're thinking actively about the fact that there is this attractive financial instrument available, which most students don't actually think about as much when they're financing their education. We can keep going, Heather.
Awesome. Yep. So talking real quick, one of the things we want to talk about is just what are these loans, right? We've been talking a lot about US loans, Indian loans, what is available. So for all you guys who are on the webinar, I want to talk a little bit about who Paras is and what the loans are and how you can avail of them. Some of you guys may not know the full profile about Paras. So real quick, we've been doing this for the past 15 years. We've sent thousands of students on these foreign loans to universities all around the world. We have, as I said, 10,000 students that have already registered over the years, and we're helping not just with the financing, but with admission counseling, visa assistance, financing. Really, I'm trying to understand, hey, what is the right career? What is the right major for me? Really going through that whole process as well in several countries, not just in the US. We're talking about US loans, but we do help for several countries outside the US as well. And we have multiple loan products for different countries out here. Typically, what the difference being, because we've done this for so long and we've had such great expertise and experience with the staff of really qualified consultants helping on the financial side, typically the loan process takes between 2 to 4 weeks to complete for end to end, right? By the time you start the application to you complete the application to the time the money is sent to your university, that whole thing, it takes 2 to 4 weeks, which is really, really quick compared to a lot of the Indian loans that you probably are used to under the time process for that. And then the last piece is, we're providing kind of the end-to-end loan counseling services. What should I apply for? How much should I apply for? How much financial aid do I get? How much do I put on my application? Like all the questions you may have, we've seen a lot of the questions over the years, and we can tell you and give you answers pretty quickly to, what happens if my university doesn't get the money? What happens if it's late? What happens if it gets stuck in transfer? Like all of those things, we can help you from counseling to all the way to the loan dispersal. So the net being, you have a trusted partner here, and we've been doing it for so long that we can definitely help you navigate the waters, which may be unknown to you right now. So we can help you there. So real quick, some of the key features of the Paras loans, right? We talked about it a little bit earlier. There's a really low interest rate. Right? This is the biggest difference, is that getting the loan is cheap. Right? There's 100% financing, and this is in US dollars. This is not in Indian rupees. Right? So it's a US denominated loan for your entire foreign education, includes tuition, living, books, in the average range of between 3 to 7%. Right? And those rates are variable. Again, collateral free. So as students and as parents on the webinar, think about this, right? You're not actually putting a lot of any collateral to fund the foreign education. Right? You have the flexibility of repaying this loan after graduation. So that way you can focus on getting a really good education and getting your degree, and you don't have to burden parents or relatives, in India. And the last piece is the flexible repayment options, right? So we have several students who will talk on this webinar as well. They've repaid their loans after graduation, between 3 and 15 years after graduation. Right? So you decide how much you want to pay, how flexible it is, how you want to pay more once you get a good job or you start working, you pay less. So all that flexibility is something that you should consider when you're thinking about funding your foreign education. In terms of financial proof, I think Kaushal has talked to a few students on this as well.
So I think, this is something that's important that most students I've heard of, and this is definitely a worry that many people have is, it's not just important to be able to pay for your education, but it's also important to be able to make sure you get your visa, and showing that you have the capacity and the funds to be able to pay for the education is one of the key requirements when you want to go apply for your visa. And so the Paras loan sanction letter is well accepted form to get your visa from when you go to the consulate. It also helps to make sure that you get your final I-20, because you get the provisional I-20, then you need to show proof of funds, and the the final I-20 comes in after that. And so this is something that's really useful to show that, look, there is no worry, the funds will be available. You can go, the university is happy and excited for you, for you to be coming there. And also your visa process at the consulate becomes a lot easier. Of course, there is always that, that slight variable there. We don't control that, and no one really can control that. But this is the biggest thing they look for, is that, are you going to make sure you can pay for it? And that's the big thing they want. And this enables you to do that as well.
So hopefully that gave you a good idea of the loans, the process. We can go a lot deeper. We can definitely have a much more individualized, personalized sessions that once we actually get in touch with you. But at this point of the webinar, I want to turn it over to some of our great users who've gone through this entire journey with Paras and be able to talk a little bit about kind of their process, what they went through, some of the things that they didn't know and they were made aware of. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our first guest, Amit Mehta. And Amit, if you want to introduce yourself and talk about your journey, that'd be great.
Hi. Can you just 5 minutes, if you don't mind? If you just give me 5 minutes.
Sure. Why don't we start with Ansh? We can start with Ansh. We have Ansh Vora on the phone, and Ansh is a recent graduate of the Paras Education University. So Ansh, why don't you start with your experience, and then we'll transfer it over to Amit.
Hey guys, thanks for this. Yeah, my name is Ansh. I'm currently a sophomore, and for those of you, I'm a second year in my undergraduate education. I study at a liberal arts college in California. For me, my dream to study in a US college was fulfilled through Paras Education, and they helped me finance my undergraduate loan. Paras does a really eloquent job in terms of getting you, in terms of transitioning you from a student in India to a student in the US while you're still settling in with a number of other factors, and the financial aspect just being one part of it. So it's a holistic journey. When you travel from here to there, you have to adjust to a lot of things and look over a lot of things. But when I went, Paras made sure for me that I didn't have to worry too much about my financial aspect of the loan, because it was looked after by them. They do help you in terms of communicating with your college and fulfilling the various needs and requirements on their end as well. They reduced as much work as possible for me, and completed a very thorough job in terms of getting me the best, I would say, best loan suitable for my criteria, and my as per my college requirements and my needs and my college fees, etc. And yes, I will be continuing to take my undergraduate student loan through Paras up until I finish my college at California. So that's about it. Thanks, Hetav. Thanks, Gaurav, for this.
Yeah, Ansh, I think one of the questions.
Yes, I actually want to ask him as well. Ansh, do share which college you're going to and how much, what's the sort of the financial responsibility you have taken on personally yourself for the first year, and what are you going to be doing for the second year from what it's looking like?
So I study at a college called Claremont McKenna College, which is ranked in the top 10 liberal arts colleges in the West Coast of the United States. I'm pursuing a degree, Bachelor of Arts degree in Economics and Finance. And as to the financial aspect of the loan, I currently have my annual tuition fees, including room and board, comes to $75,000. It's slightly on the steep side because we're a private college, and it's also a very highly competitive college in terms of the liberal arts category. So my annual tuition comes down to around $75,000. So if you do the math over 4 years, it comes to around $250,000. Assuming there is no change in tuition or a drastic fee structure change, I would be taking this entire amount as an undergraduate loan, and as Kaushal mentioned earlier on in the webinar, pay it over 20-year tenure, the repayment tenure. Yeah.
So Ansh, question for you: when you went through the process out here, how did you hear about Paras, and what was the motivation for you to take a US loan versus have your parents go through an Indian loan for you?
So I heard about Paras through word of mouth, and I also I was in touch with one of a fellow peer of mine, a student who studies at the University of Southern California, and he too had taken a student loan through Paras, and he was explaining me the methodologies of the loan and how the entire loan works. So that drew me towards taking student loan in the US, because the repayment process and also the, the process of the way he explained it actually in terms of getting a US student loan was that it helps in the interest rate you get for your loans can be possibly much better if you're financing it through a US bank as compared to an Indian bank. So that leaned me towards it, but I let Paras make the best decision for me, and I believe that they have been they've been great in doing so.
Awesome. Thanks, Ansh. Appreciate you giving your perspective. We have another user, actually. This user is based here in the US. Is it Jalak? Jalak and her father, Pradeep Dave, are on the call. I'll have Jalak talk about her experience.
Hi, can you guys hear me okay? That's Hetal, right?
Yep, we can hear you fine.
We can hear you
Right,
fine.
thanks for introducing me. Yeah, it is a good chance to, interact with a lot of people right now. I'm sure everyone has a lot of questions on their mind, and 100 concerns come up when, the parents want to send their kids away, and particularly to US or abroad. And given the current situation, I can understand it's not it's not an easy decision to make for most of the parents. Something about what I want to contribute today is that mine is not like a typical situation I had when I approached Paras. Me and my dad, we approached Paras, and we heard about Paras from one of my dad's colleagues, and we had some other financial provisions in place, but things didn't work out, and things fell apart, and I had to approach Paras in a very crisis situation. So it was a very critical situation, and it was just like 1 month before I had to actually start school here, and that's when we went and met Bharti ma'am. And even after that, she was so patient and so helpful. She guided us very well. She helped us through the process. She made sure that we were comfortable and we understood what we are signing up for. And in retrospect, when I think about it, I guess the Paras education loan is the best thing that happened for me. Never, the loan that the way the loan is structured, it makes you feel financially secure here, knowing that you have the funds in your account, knowing that you can take full responsibility of your education, and that you won't run into a situation where you have to compromise on your board or books or food or any basic necessities. That's a very it's a very big it's a very big relief for not only for the student but more so for the parents and who are back home. So
Yeah.
that was the best part of it. Like, you know, it makes the student so financially independent. To, you know, and it's a beautiful smooth journey. So that's my experience with Paras.
Awesome. Awesome. Jalak, what part of the US are you in?
Oh, sorry, I did not mention that. So I studied at Temple University in Philadelphia. I graduated in 2018. Now I'm working here in San Jose at Cypress, which is now Infineon. So I'm situated here in San Jose in California.
Okay, great.
Zalak, same question I asked Ansh.
As well. Yeah.
Sorry, what was that?
Zalak, same question I was asking Ansh was, how much did your education cost you, and you know, how much was the loan that you took? Was it for the full amount? Were there any scholarships involved?
No, there were no scholarships involved. My I-20 was coming out. The amount on my I-20 was coming out to like 38,000 for annual for 1 year. So 38,000 times 2 was the loan I took. It will, yeah, 76.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, that is a lot of money. And you know, the reason is it is not as steep as Ansh mentioned. Given that it is not a completely private university, it is one of the school, like a state come private, so it's a hybrid kind of university. So I guess that decision, it's a very important decision too. You have to figure out which school is the best fit for you, considering the finances, the location, your course, and everything.
Right.
Yeah,
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
No, that's great, Jalak. Thanks so much for your insight. You know, it's always great to have students like you kind of share some light, and good to know you're well settled now, which is, you know, the struggling days of college, and now you're settled in California. So hopefully, you know, you're seeing a very different life than college life now. So good to see you on here.
Yes, by God's grace, and you know, and people like Paras's team. It matters. It matters who you work with, who you approach, and how they motivate or demotivate you. That makes a lot of difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
absolutely.
absolutely.
Well, thanks so much.
100 marks for, you know, the entire team, and I would definitely recommend anyone. In fact, my brother is still in India, and at some point we'll have to plan about him. And my father, and they are already in talks with Bharti ma'am at the Churchgate office.
Awesome. Good to know.
It's a very good experience.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate your insight, Jalak. Let's turn it over to last. Yeah, let's have one last user, Amit. If you're on, I want to have Amit give his experience.
Yes, I'm very much on. I'm very much on. Thank you very much, Paras Education, for inviting me to speak here. I go long back in my relationship with Paras Education, and that was in the very, very initial days also, when their offices were somewhere in Lower Parel. And I think Hetav and Kaushal very, very small at that point of time. And Arun Bhai and Bharti Ben were the people who were leading the team at that point of time. And I had some fantastic experiences of dealing with Paras Education. And I'm going way back in 2001 right now. I'm actually an engineer. And after doing my engineering, I was likely to give a GMAT and TOEFL. I was working in Middle East, so I happened to come back for giving my GMAT and TOEFL here in Mumbai, and then I thought I will travel back to US or UK. So I came back to Mumbai, and I gave my GMAT and TOEFL, and I got a very good score. And then I got a offer letter from a couple of universities in US and UK. So I chose London Business School and Leeds University for two different courses in UK. Now, incidentally, both are in a high category of the strata of MBAs, and they demand good scores in GMAT and TOEFL. So I first took my entry in Leeds University Business School, where I did my MBA Finance, and then I did my merger and acquisition in London Business School. I was selected in a campus interview by Tata Group here in Mumbai, and their team in London. They selected us when a campus interview was on there in Leeds University. Let me tell you my experience as far as the loan is concerned. At that point of time, the loan amount and the disbursement was done in a very conservative way, and the interest rates were somewhere in the range of, I think, 7.5 to 8%. And today, I think the students are having the benefit of getting the interest of about 4%. So the fees in Leeds University was about 14 odd lakhs. That included the stay for 1 year. And the fees in London Business School was roughly about 22 lakhs. So I was looking at expenditure for 2 years in the range of about 36 lakhs approximately, plus travel expenses and other expenses. So it so happened that, it was a curfew day on that day in 2001. I'm talking. It was a bandh on that day in Mumbai, and I had come recently only from Middle East, and I was staying here. I'm a Mumbaiite, of course, but I was there in Middle East, Mumbai, for almost 4 years. So when I came back here, I wanted to meet a Paras Education team on a Saturday, and Saturday was a bandh. It was a bandh. So I saw the timing that the bandh was likely to open at around 4 o'clock. So I called the Paras Education team that if you can just keep your office open, but I need to meet you today only in the evening. So their office normally would have closed around 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock at that point of time because of bandh. But they waited for me, and I reached somewhere or the other through cab and train. I reached their office at around 6 o'clock in the evening. And that's where my relationship started with Paras Education. And I got a sanction of approximately 30 lakhs through Paras Education in 2001-2. I'm talking about 2001-2 period. And, that made my career. Today, let me tell you proudly, we are one of the largest law firm in this country today. We are a globally acclaimed law firm. We are more than 200 advocates all working in one single office. Okay, someone has put in the chat box, please open your video also. So I'm just opening the video also. Yeah. And we are one of the largest law firm in the country today. We are having about 10 offices outside India. We have 3 offices in Middle East. We have 3 offices in US. We have office in Tokyo, Singapore, Dubai, Israel, and London. And we have 11 offices within India. I would proudly say one thing, that the career, it took shape only because of that loan of 30 lakhs plus. You imagine in 2001, 30 lakhs was huge and a big amount. And getting a loan at that point of time, it actually shaped our career. So I got a admission in Leeds University and the next course in London Business School. Then I was selected with Tata Group. I was here with Tata Group for 8 long years in campus interview when they selected me. And in the period when I was with Tata Group, I completed my law also. And then finally, I started practicing law in the year 2009. So I had a long history and relationship with the entire Paras Education family. And I cannot be less thankful to the staff also, including the person named Mr. Dubey. I think Dubey ji is a staff who is still working with Paras Education. And he was a person who was running around and clearing papers, getting papers, including delivering of papers at my residence at some point of time on a weekend. Because
Amit, we still have Dubeji, as we call him fondly. We still have him.
Oh, great, fantastic! I never knew that he's still there. And I remember him because he delivered documents and papers at my residence on a Sunday. And that too, when at that point of time, when Paras Education team, which was headed by Arun Bhai Sangvi, he told that you go and deliver it on a Sunday because Monday morning he has to get some documentation done. And of course, I required some documents for the visa purpose also. So friends, I would like to tell you one more thing about the visa also. Please be very correct and rightful when you are going for getting your visas. Please understand the consulate people are extremely smart people. They know everything. Even though you are trying to suppress some information, please ensure you're not doing that. I had a multiple entry visa for US. I have a multiple entry visa for UK also for 10 years. But it's not that easy to get visa. Today, the procedure may be streamlined, but you should ensure that you have all the documentation in place, your letter of acceptance, your loan letters, everything you should have upfront only, and ensure that you don't lie anything when you're going to the consulate. I think if people have some questions, they can always ask me questions. Otherwise, I'm done. And I thank you very much for Kaushal, Hetav, Bharti Ben, I cannot miss the name of Bharti Ben because she has been so nice coordinating when Arun Bhai was not accessible sometimes, and Bharti Ben used to take up the entire team and work together. So thank you so much, Paras Education.
No, that's great, Amit. Thanks so much. And the whole team is still here. The whole team is intact. So, again, goes back to where we've been doing this for a long time, and helping students like Amit is really very, very pleasurable for us. So thanks, Amit, for sharing your great story, and great to see the law firm excelling. So good luck on that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Ketab, if we have 1 minute, I just want to add something to
sure.
Amit Bhai just mentioned.
Sure, go for it.
It is very important how, so even if you have everything in place, your finances are in place and everything is in place, your visa day is the final make or break, So you have to be absolutely truthful, and you have to go in that interview with 100% conviction. You have to believe in what you want to do for yourself. That is what they judge you on. And I have had some friends, and there were some experiences when I was interviewing myself. The student in front ahead of me, the consulate, the officer asked the person that, like, which course are you doing and why are you doing this and why this particular university? These are the three absolutely critical questions that they are going to not grill you on, but that is the answer to these three questions is what's going to decide your fate. You have to be very clear on what you say to these three questions. Everything else, if you are absolutely confident about these three answers, then they don't really, dig into all the documents and details. But you have to have everything in place. But these are absolutely critical points.
No, absolutely. I think that's great insight. And, as we are hearing from everyone, being honest and truthful in kind of the documentation in the process, that goes a long way. And when we do our consulting sessions with everyone, we have a playbook, we have a template for a lot of this stuff that we can actually walk you through. Over the years, with experiences that we're hearing about today, we can definitely share a lot of that with you and give you best practices and guidance of how to set up your discussion, how to set up your answers, how to present your papers. A lot of that stuff will be shared with you. Awesome. So I think with that, I wanted to make sure that if we have any last questions, we can answer on the chat right now. We're happy to answer that. In conclusion, as we started the webinar, wanted to thank everyone for their time, but also understand the times are a little bit challenging right now in terms of the policy, especially for the US. But as we said, the focus on education and the focus on funding your education is not going to change. So I would still recommend, everyone continue their plans as they're thinking, get in touch with us. I have the contact information on the slide here, on WhatsApp, on email, and we're happy to go into a deep consulting session with you to understand your personal situation, your history, and navigate you through the waters to help you and your family. With that, I'm going to open up with a question. Go ahead. We have a question. You can unmute yourself for a question. Kaushal, did we have someone asking a question right now?
Yes, hello.
Hello. Yeah.
Hello. I'm Shailen speaking. I just want to request you if you can address something for the students who already are studying in US and they are looking for further loan for the next session.
Yeah, so we talked about that earlier in the webinar. I'm not sure when you joined, but we talked about, for students who are already in the US and want to fund their next fall or the spring semester, we absolutely are ready to help, and we can help go through the process. International loans are still being given. Students are still coming here. If their international student wants to transfer from an online model to a hybrid model or vice versa, we can help identify some universities that they can do that as well. So absolutely here to help.
Just to add to that, I think Mr. Shailendra was that. The other thing is that for students who are already in the US, the loan actually often moves much quicker because they can, so the process is between the university's financial aid office or the finance office, the financial institution, and Paras. So we can get those three to move much more quickly when the student's already in the US. So we've actually seen loans get processed within a week if the student's already there.
Yeah, and I'm based here in the US. We have a US office as well. So happy to coordinate and recognizing time zones are different, etc. We do help several students already in the US. Do we have another question?
That's great. Thank you.
Yep.
Where in the US are you based?
Sorry?
Hello. The question was, where are you based?
Where in the US is your office based?
So we're in San Francisco, California.
California. Okay, thank you.
Great. Good. Any other questions, or I think we can answer several over chat as well.
Yeah, I have.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. Go ahead.
This is Sagar Joshi from India.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have a question. I put it on the chat also that in the application of the loan, quite a good amount of information is requested on the co-signer. One of my co-signers is asking as to how is the privacy protected.
Yeah. So there is actually privacy is protected on two levels. One is the technical privacy in the way the data is encrypted and sent across to the different universities and to the different financial institutions we work with. But also there is bonds and guarantees that we have signed around data privacy that we work with the folks in India to ensure that as well.
So
we also actually talk to the co-signers as well, and we have a discussion with them, addressing all of their concerns pretty head on.
Okay, that would be good. Thanks.
Yeah.
Let's take one last question, and then we can people can always get in touch with us at the contact information mentioned as well. There was one more question I had someone else asking earlier.
May I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm Mahesh Iyer from India. I just wanted to know, my granddaughter just passed ICSC with about 87% mark. Just wanted to know whether can you find some university, not in US, but some other country like Spain or like Italy or maybe Switzerland?
Yes, possible.
Yeah, so there is absolutely a possibility.
Sorry?
Yeah, there's absolutely a possibility. I have pasted the email address in the chat. I think we do help with several other countries, not just US, and we have students in other countries as well. So happy to connect them with students in other universities. So just feel free to shoot us an email, and we are happy to connect you and connect the students as well.
Yeah, I think I would just send you an email, and then if you can share me your private number, I can talk to you, and whatever fees are that I can pay, and all other things can be done,
Yeah, no worries, absolutely. So I think we're running out of time out here right now. So with that said, I really wanted to thank everyone for taking the time. Appreciate you joining at different times of the day or night, depending which part of the world you are in. We look forward to helping all you guys and parents. So again, the contact information is on the website. We will send Absolutely. We will send out a recording of this webinar, and we will send out the presentation as well as a follow-up. So feel free to check your email, and we look forward to getting in touch with all of you all.
Thank you very much. I am Jalang's dad, Pradeep here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.